Well, I was an engineer before MTM. I still am an engineer. Okay, and I probably will be for the rest of my life. That's because I just love coding, right? And engineering. The difference, though, is the way I used to approach engineering before MTM and the way I approach it now. Right. So Coupa is a business spend management company. It is kind of similar to Visa in certain ways, a payment company and this and that. What's important and the difference that MTN has made in the way I look at things is micro versus macro, right? So years of doing engineering, I was deeply focused on getting everything right. I mean, almost all of us here would have done some sort of coding in their life. And you understand that you miss one semicolon, right? And your code crashes. Okay, so over the years, what happens to us engineers is that we keep on looking at the minutest possible details and we totally forget why we're doing what we're doing. Okay, and this is where, one of the, my case was unusual in a way that I was a mid-career person. I have been an engineer for a long time and I could have continued on my journey of being an engineer and I could have gotten somewhere in life. But I decided instead to understand that why is it that I struggle understanding the viewpoint of, let's say, product people in my company? Why is it that, that salespeople don't look into the eyes of a programmer? Okay, or why is it that, if there's a big shift in the strategy of the company and the programmers, a programmer like me, would just sit on the side, look, that's fine. My job is secure. Do I care? So I could not put all of these pieces together until I joined MTM and the 7 or 8 courses that Dr. Phillips talked about. Each one of them for me was looking at the same problem. We'd call the same sphere basically from different angles. Right. So how do we position a product? How do we measure the success of your product? That's what she was talking about, analytics side of things. How do you strategize something? How do you manage a team that actually builds the product? How do you do accounting for the product? Right? How do you look at the P&L? How do you know that you're not spending more than what you're supposed to spend? In the process of your project, how do you manage the project itself? And how is it that you make sure that you're on track? So each one of these skills is something that I had seen all along in my career, but I could not relate to them. Right? So that 9 months that I spent in MTM, every subject that we picked, every lecture that we had for me was a reflection back on how things happened the way they happened. Right? And the difference now when I'm working in this company is that, yes, I'm still an engineer, but I've noticed that I get along so well with every product manager, salesperson, strategist, CEO, CFO, CXO, everybody, because I know a little bit about them and I can probably understand their viewpoint. So that's how I'll stop. MTM has made me a better engineer because I got my current job through an ex-MTM. In fact, the way it happened was that I was supposed to join in 2023. COVID hit, I was not able to join. But during a session like this, like right now, the kind of session that we are having, I ended up meeting this guy called Kumaresh. Anyway, so we became friends, but I could not come to the United States at that time. So I joined 1 year after him. And during my Thanksgiving break, I remember I went and stayed with him and his flatmate was also from MTM. And I discovered that he's working for this company called Coupa. So one of these days I actually went to his office just to see how the office is. And I met this guy and discovered that that particular person is actually ex-UCSB computer science. And interestingly, I was TAing at that time in UCSB computer science. So there was a bit of a connection. We joked and talked about the professors and stuff like that. And that thing finished. And then when I finished my degree, I noticed suddenly on LinkedIn that there is a job that's being advertised. I called up Kumaresh. Kumaresh called up my hiring manager, whose name is Omar. And within probably a day or so, I had my first interview lined up. And within 2 weeks, I got my job. So to the point that we actually have a little MTM. Well, it's not MTM, it's UCSB alumni kind of thing in Coupa, and we still hang out together. So this has been my success story. I want to take a dig on that because it took me quite a few years actually to decide whether I should be doing an MBA or an MTM kind of program, right? And I made the right decision, exactly what Sona was saying towards the end of it. My feeling is that most people from my cohort, for example, who end up finishing the degree, end up working in some sort of tech industry. Okay, so even if you go into product management or project management or something, you have to be close to engineers, right? Now, if you notice the way MTM, academia is, right? All the professors that we got on MTM, most of them actually started their career as engineers. Okay, so when you talk to them, the kind of interaction that we used to have in the classroom, the kind of case studies that we used to have, it's entirely possible to talk about something that's got nothing to do with technology. And that's what happens in business schools. right? But all the time that I spent at MTM, every single case study was actually picked for a technology company, right? Designed by engineers, but putting the management lens to it, right? So this is where I would say that MTM is definitely a much better choice for anybody who comes from a bit of a tech background and who wants to stay in the tech side of things.